time when you're burning us down, just remember, God is standing by. Changing our soul. There's no need to cry. Oh, God is standing by. Changing our soul. Don't you worry and don't cry. No, no. When you have troubles, don't cry. Oh no. Just remember that God is standing by. When the cup runneth over, just remember God is standing by. Changing our soul. There's no need to cry. God is standing by. Changing our soul. Just ride out to worry and don't cry. You're feeling the storm, and it seems like forever. And your nights of confusion has been so long. Your ship has lost anchor, and the storm that you drifted. Just hold on to Jesus and ride out your storm. Ride out your storm. God is still with you. You may not feel it, but you're not alone. You're hurting now, but your morning is coming. Lord of mercy, just hold on to Jesus and ride out your storm.
Yes, indeed. Of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry. This is, of course, the Sunday edition, and of course, tomorrow is a working day. And of course, on a Sunday, we kind of course, take it down a bit in order to, of course, pay homage to that one. Whether you call, of course, the holy book that you would be reading from or getting your lessons from, whether you call it the Quran, whether you call it the Gita, whether you call it the Bible, and of course anything in between and beyond. The fact of the matter is that there is one, and that one, of course, is supernatural, is supreme in all respects, is ubiquitous, is all knowledge, and of course, is the one, of course, that we consider to be our Savior. And therefore, in such circumstance, we must pay homage, we must pay reverence, we must be, of course, very, what I consider to be respectful to the fact that there must be something beyond this earthly body, this earthly existence that we have. And therefore, at least one day in the week, if we can, of course, pay homage, pay respects, then, of course, we would be doing ourselves a justice, rather than those who, of course, don't pay it any mind at all. Yes, indeed. A pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, North, South, Central, our friends in Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web. Pleasant good day to you. This is, yes, the Sunday edition of the Corridor Transformation, your host, Lennox Smith. Let's take it a little more of that, and we need it. we need it because we can confirm that, of course, the United States did, in fact, bomb the nuclear development facilities of Iran. And, of course, we don't know where that would lead because, of course, retaliation after retaliation, and, of course, as they say, evil begets evil. Very seldom, of course, a person will turn their cheek to have you slap them on the other side. That is someone who, of course, has what the Greek call agape love, where you love the person so much that you will not retaliate because you see them as you. But that is a different scenario altogether. This is geopolitics in the operation and the making, and we have to be sensitive. So let's take it a little more of the religious music before, of course, we get into the substance of tonight's program. You can put all your faith in the Father, 'cause I know He's so kind. It's easier for a camel to go through a needle line. Move, Satan, move, let me pass. Move, Satan, move, let me pass. Yes indeed, yes indeed, yes indeed. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Yes, indeed, of course, like every good thing, all good things, as well as bad things, come to an end. Of course, we will, of course, save the rest for the ending of the program. I know that you couldn't get enough of it at the commencement, but we have a job to do, and we will, of course, so do. Of course, in human circumstance, well, you know, it's time and place. And, of course, like last night and like some time before, we recognize that, of course, the PNM, clearly those who are vying because they are simply opportunistic in their disposition, really have nothing to offer, but because once in power, they can, of course, fill their pockets and get their friends and family through nepotism and cronyism to be in a place where they will never be able to work for or contemplate or fathom. And so, of course, when we would have heard the madness only because they want to be in power. Or put another way, they have missed the position of telling people what to do, how to do it, castigate them, insult them, tell people that when you're looking for food during COVID, looking for hampers, that of course you're greedy, whilst they are of course lining their friends and themselves, their respective pockets, and gormandizing on the resources of the country that belongs to all of us. We know that they are of course unfit for office. So when Al-Rari tells us that he gives the UNC and of course the coalition 12 months, you laugh, because you know that is part of the malady. That is part of the cognitive and intellectual decline that they are experiencing. And as a consequence, they cannot, of course, fathom the fact that they have done so much evil, so much wrong, so much wickedness to the people, that they are now, of course, in the political wilderness and ready, of course, to become cast out in such a way so as to be relegated to the dustbin of political history in this country. We cannot stop, because they will not stop. They will not stop until we finally put the final political nail in their coffin, and so long as they are not. Because today, whilst of course you may want to tell me, Lennox, why are you still? And I want to tell you, well, today they are seeing if they can coalesce, because today is their what? Internal elections. Hoping that they could, of course, salvage and then come again and hoodwink us into some kind of fit or some kind of illusion, some kind of cognitive scenario where they could fool you, hoodwink you, and to tell you, well, listen, we are back together again and we are united, etc. Don't forget. They would like you to forget that when they were in office, and because they didn't know their fate, after the 28th of April, they told you in nonsense, the party is a strong party. It could resist, and it is resilient to all what I consider to be a should I say tycoon? No, I would say tsunami and earthquakes and tremor and the trepidations thereof. They are able, of course, to manage that and to, of course, overcome it. Well, we are seeing, of course, today, after the 28th of April, the underbelly. In other words, there's nothing sacrosanct about the PNM. You know what I say? I said there's nothing sacrosanct about the PNM. There's nothing religious. There is nothing, of course, sacred about the PNM. They are a group of hustlers, just as, of course, the ordinary fella on the road who, of course, believes that since he didn't do too well in school, he can, of course, get an easy dollar. That is the nature of the PNM and their opportunistic nature, and we must, of course, see it for what it is. Let us not waste time. We have a group of persons who are conscious, who are people-centered, who are saying to you, give us a little time. It is only 6 weeks, and we are going to demonstrate to you what ought to have been delivered to you over the last 9 years of the period. You see, so long as they are in office, they control the narrative to make you believe that the evil that they would have been doing, that the starvation that they would have, of course, orchestrated and created, and, of course, choreographed. You heard Rowley. He handed down pain, ache, agony, under deception, imposing property tax, taking away, of course, subsidies. Rambunctious and brutal and telling people you're not going to get pay. And then dismissing people and say it's part of the course. Because some people have to be displaced. 60-something thousand people we're talking about in the Southwestern Peninsula connected to the petrol train. But he's comfortable with that and telling you that is the best thing for you. Whilst we are seeing, of course, Balizé House going up over $100 million and counting. And they are comfortable telling us that we must do without food on the table or without 3 square meals. Whilst they, of course, eat ham, lamb, and jam. Well, we have arrived at the place where they cannot fool us again. Let us go to the lines. A pleasant good night, welcome.
Hey, Lennox, good night.
Good night to you, my friend.
You hear me, bud?
Loud and clear, my friend.
I see Hurricane Barry Palarat.
Yes.
I see he picked up and he said, Michael, and he said, very nice study. Technical and nice. He said, we thank you for the interest you show in. You know, we place it on the state board. Remember we talked about you last night?
No, I didn't yet, but I know what Anizet said because I read that. But what did Barry say?
Barry said, we thank you for the interest you are showing.
Right.
You know, we put it on the state board. We make preparations and we will get there in time.
Okay, right, good. Well, all right, that's a response.
Yeah, in other words, it's a nice googly.
Yeah. He was very congenial and saw it as a that's why I talked about, of course, criticisms. All criticisms are not negative. They are positive criticisms as well. They are called, of course, constructive criticisms.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you remember the same man, he said, well, only had a experience with Unigo report already.
Yes, we have.
Right. When Deborah Felix Thomas was in charge of the industrial court,
Yes.
and they had to go slow the strike on the port, and Rowdy Mushi, and put somebody, he didn't say nothing, you know. He didn't say nothing, because she was on their side.
And yesterday we did, of course, extrapolate and went into details that these are what I consider to be quicksand people. they are very volatile. You never could tell where they would be tomorrow. We did say that, but go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. He didn't say nothing, and
Yeah.
he replaced Deborah Felix with somebody else.
Yeah.
And that judge said them they had to go back to work, right?
Yeah.
And he come outside casually, tell the fellas on the port, well, boy, the judge said we had to go to work, so we had to work. Now, me, Lennox, if I used to work on the port,
Yeah.
I would have tell myself, he set me off this.
All right.
You said nothing when they moved Deborah Felix and put it there and you go back to work right away. See that? That is a shot in the dark as far as I'm concerned. Right? So that brother, I know you're looking to get into UNCB again. Come, this is a different rooms for UNCB, come land them, you know. They're going to see fellas like he homework them. And Roger and Clyde and them ain't going to take on it. Because as I said before, and he said, it's a dead fear them. It's a no even before that.
I hear you.
Right?
Yeah.
So, you can try where you want, he go get you.
Yes.
So that's about it for now. You watch all the show today?
Yes, my friend. Wonderful. All right, thanks. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, as I said, there are some people who are volatile in nature, and here I mean a kind of quixotic, 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 where of course they are unstable, they are neither here nor there tomorrow. Of course, they say one thing, next day they say something else, and of course, and you have it all over because of course, Donald Trump, for example, is such an individual who would say something today and then tomorrow. And of course, we had that during the public, I should say, experiences of that of Jack Warner. You know, he said yesterday was yesterday, today is today, and we move on. And let's face it, nobody is perfect. That is what they are saying, in my view, that nobody is perfect, and you are subject to a mistake on a particular issue, and if it turns out that after you would have taken a position on a particular matter, it turns out that you are wrong, then of course it takes a big person to say, listen, I have erred. And of course, as it is said, to err is to be what? To be human. So I am not going to afford it. I'm going to take people at their word simply because I don't know what is in their mind and what is the true position. But certainly, as some people would say, an ounce of action is better than a pound of talk. Let me repeat that. An ounce of action is better than a pound of talk. So we wait for the action, no matter how minuscule it may be, but it will indicate very pellucidly what the thought pattern is, because we simply can't. No matter whether you have what some criminologists or some law enforcement agency may talk about polygraph tests, which of course is lie detector tests and all of that, but that in itself is not foolproof. For that, of course, you could detect a person who may not be telling the truth. But however, actions speak louder than words, and of course that is something that is external, it is something that is physical, it's something that is palpable, it's something that is visual and tactile, and therefore of course those things I prefer to be much more pragmatic in terms of determining whether a person is sincere about a particular position, situation, ideology, or ability. So that being as it may, for example, you hardly will find someone on a Sunday bringing a program like this to you. And therefore, of course, from that practical, tangible experience, visible, you can draw a conclusion. And when someone, or if someone tells you, no, that man is a fella who will not go to work on time, who is very lazy, indolent, who is not concerned about people. He hard and he's of course indolent, wicked and bad. You know that they're talking about Rowley and not Lennox Smith. One time you would know that. So because of course, as I keep saying, if I had control of the government, I empty the treasury in Governmental. That's the way how I feel. And you wouldn't believe the kind of dreams I just get. You wouldn't believe towards, of course, that same trend of thought. But it is all about, of course, addressing the question of the downtrodden, the poor, and the dispossessed. And of course, coming up against those who, because they have the authority, they have power, they have the means, that they will exploit, abuse, ridicule, and disrespect fellow human beings who may be less fortunate than they are. I have a serious problem with that, people. Serious problem. But that being as it may, I want, of course, to address tonight the hypocrisy. Why is, of course, just now, well, I suppose that they have another function, another occasion for the formal results of the elections that would have taken place today, from the fact that I have not seen anybody, and what has made it probably worse, I'm sure, that if them get 25,000 persons coming out at that election, no, I'm being too generous here. If they get 5,000 persons, 2,000 persons coming out at that election today, coupled with the fact that people have no motivation, one, and two, that of course over 100,000 persons moved away from the PNM as identified by the present leader of the opposition, and of course leader to be certified, are talking about Penelope Beckles, but she said over 100,000 persons moved away from the PNM. And the fact, coupled with the fact that rain fell today, I should say they get about 1,000 people, they get plenty. Yeah. Because the people are totally fed up with the shenanigans, the opportunism, and the inability to manage, but kill them dead because people still had some kind of nostalgic, or some prefer to say, anachronistic association with the PNM. But that illusion, that mystique has gone. Having regard to what Rowley and George Young and the rest of them would have done to us over the last 9 years. And if we didn't take charge to jettison them from government, in spite of what they're saying today, the what I consider to be the illusionary 13. And of course there are others who would try to give the impression that somehow by some enigma, they could, of course, resurrect themselves. I say no, it's impossible. But let us, of course, continue, because, you see, there was one person who was saying that these people have gone mad. And I mentioned, of course, what Al-Rawi said, and then, of course, he went on to say what? That, of course, they are going to mass retrench people from URP, CPEP, and so on. He's doing that deliberately. We saw Rowley when he talked about the banana, deliberate, trying to rile up, but trying, of course, to excite. But we are not going to, of course, fall for that, especially when you have counter arguments and countervailing, of course, positions, like on the corridor transformation, the ground report that will commence tomorrow as usual, and then, of course, we're back here on the corridor transformation. So what's the latest? The latest is that Camille Robinson Regis made a bold statement after, of course, the leader of the opposition and the leader to be anointed, Penelope Beckles, says that the party has lost its way. She comes and said that there is too much dirty linen washing, among others. But she was much more strident, but built into that, believing that somehow that we wouldn't know, or we would bring to the forefront what she was all about, is all about, and attempting to do. Self-righteous indignation. And of course, I come into a very sensitive point. You may or may not agree with me with respect to that point when I get there. But I want to tell you, as Ms. Santa Cruz mentioned last night, and I told her to send the information for me, but you know, I told her that don't let me dig it up, but I had to dig it up, and therefore I have it. But I put it in a way that, of course, you will be totally satisfied. Because she's saying now that, of course, Rowley is the best thing since sliced bread. But at one time, she was saying he's the worst thing since the devil roamed the earth. And still do. Yeah. I know she liked to sue people and things, you know, so I had to make sure that it's on record. I have to make sure that, of course, you have it live and direct. Because, see, for Kamala talking the truth about her, in that, of course, she would not have been fitted to be Attorney General. That she find that Kamala shouldn't say that and want, of course, to sue her for that. And then it turned out that she didn't have her dues, her legal dues up to date, and she had to go and of course rectify that before she could have, of course, be considered to be seriously the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, even though, of course, she was given the position by virtue of the anointment by the president at the time, being, of course, a member of what? Of Stuart Young's ephemeral government. Ephemeral, short-lived government. Yes. Ephemeral, short-lived government. Yes. And of course, a totally inchoate, meaning that incomplete. It's like so much so that for the first time in the history of this country, the present government has decided to bring legislation so as to amend how a prime minister could get, of course, a pension of the type that Rowley and they agreed to for him, and hoping that somehow Stuart Young will get it automatically because he carried at one time the name Prime Minister, even though it was for a couple of weeks. No, they are going to be bringing legislation, and I agree, and you must agree as well, to say that you must be a Prime Minister at least for a year for you to get, of course, the benefit of a pension as Prime Minister, and not that because you carry the title for a day or two, that, of course, you get all the benefits and all of the emoluments and all of the perks associated with a Prime Minister post, of course, him or her being Prime Minister. But let's go straight, of course, to the recent, of course, iteration of the madness that is, of course, the PNM senior members. And of course, she criticized everybody. I'm sure she meant Al-Rari, she meant Brown, because she said past regime people, current regime, current, of course, members in the cabinet, and of course, who are not in the cabinet, sorry, but in the House of Representatives, representing, of course, the opposition, and therefore the PNM in the lower house, and of course those who were made, of course, senators as well. She was comprehensive in her criticism. But what was dishonest of her? Let me repeat. What was dishonest of her? Not disingenuous, dishonest of her. She said that, of course, people are castigating Rowley and stop castigating Rowley. And when, of course, PNM people start that and why they must engage in that, etc. When she, Camille Robinson Regis, when, of course, she was rooting for and did want clearly her position to be compromised under Patrick Manning, the late Patrick Manning, the then and former, of course, Prime Minister and leader of the party. She was saying all kind of nasty things about Rowley. You feel it's joke? You ever say? I said she was saying a lot of nasty things about Rowley. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Rowley is unfit to lead. He is too arrogant. He does not entertain views different from his. The central theme of our attack should be Keith Rowley by his acknowledged arrogant dictatorial attitudes and constantly.
What? Let's say that again. Let's start it over, people, so that you can see for yourself. Is a dictator, dictatorial, is unfit to lead? That is what she was saying about Rowley. Let's say it again.
Rowley is unfit to lead. He is too arrogant. He does not entertain views different from his. The central theme of our attack should be Keith Rowley by his acknowledged arrogant dictatorial attitudes and harsh behavior, is temperamental and unsuited for the role of the Prime Minister. Keith Rowley in the PNM internal elections has articulated no policies on health, escalating crime, income inequality, and rising poverty and youth alienation. Keith Rowley has shown himself unable to be a team player, and in a party historically characterized by strict internal discipline, he led a mutiny. He has shown himself unable to weather sustained attacks. He becomes angry and in effect a raging bull.
Camille Robinson Regis calls for party unity and stop bashing a former Prime Minister Keith Christopher Rowley carried in a Guardian newspaper article which note, PNM election chaos sparks concern from leaders, written by Ria Tate on June 21st, June 2025. The article states, as the People's National Movement heads to the polls tomorrow for its internal election, Vice Chairman and Chairman of the Women's League Camille Robinson Regis has expressed sadness over what she sees as the barbs and the sniping directed at former PNM leader and Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley during this internal election campaign. In a Facebook post, Robinson Regis, who is not seeking re-election, said, I'm deeply saddened by the fact that this internal election has turned into the bashing of people who genuinely care for and have worked diligently for our beloved party and country. The article went on to state, there has been unease among some ELE men of the party over the election discourse, with some party members expressing their consternation over what they view as negative statements targeting Rowley and at times also Stuart Young, including comments that, but for the early calling of the election, the PNM would have been entering its third term in office. Such remarks have come from some members of the One PNM Bring Back the Love platform, the slate led by opposition leader Penelope Beckles, who is unopposed for the position of political leader, and which includes General Secretary Foster Cummings, seeking re-election, candidate for the chairmanship Marvin Gonzalez, and candidate for the vice chairmanship Dr. Amory Brown. Although there have been several comments on Facebook from the rank and file expressing their concerns and dismay about the course of the campaign, Robinson Regis joined this chorus on her Facebook page. Robinson Regis said, "It is deeply disheartening to witness Dr. Rowley, someone who has consistently demonstrated his commitment to the best interests of our party and our country, facing criticism from within our own ranks. Even more troubling is that some of this criticism comes from individuals whose political journeys he helped revive and whom he placed in positions of trust and responsibility.
Wow.
At a time when our political opponents are also actively seeking to discredit him, it is unfortunate that such internal divisions are emerging. This moment calls for unity and reflection, not unnecessary discord, suggesting that some of the criticisms apply to the actions of members of a current slate," Robinson Regis stated. Unbelievably, though, is that some members of the leadership who are being accused of failing us are the same members who now form an integral part of some slates. Isn't that contradictory? Also, who are the so-called opponents? Is it Dr. Rowley, Stuart Young, Rohan Sananan, and I? We are the ones now ostensibly being attacked for the outcome of the general election as we formed the leadership. But several persons who are now requesting your vote to lead the party again were also part of that leadership and integral to the general election campaign. So how are they not being vilified, but we are? Asking how come some people were not being similarly held to account, Robinson Regis said, "If the election result didn't turn out how we expected, so how does that make us the enemy and the persons who are now fighting the internal election and who are also involved in the general election are not being attacked and are not the enemy? Some even lost their seats, but are presenting themselves to lead the party again. I am not against that, but let's be fair." Harking back to an earlier internal contest, Robinson Regis said, "I recall when Dr. Rowley challenged Mr. Manning in 1996
Listen
for
carefully.
the position of political leader. I supported Mr. Manning and was a frontline speaker, and not one day did I see the need to speak ill of Dr. Rowley or members who chose to support him. There was no need, as it was a contest amongst family, and in that case we didn't need to bring down one for the other to win. We needed to highlight why it was felt that one candidate had the better ability to lead at that time. I was not even a candidate, but I spoke several times in support of Mr. Manning on his platform, never in any way denigrating Dr. Rowley, who had a legitimate right to challenge. In fact, during the campaign, I went to Dr. Rowley's home and gave him and my schoolmate Sharon, Rowley, a Rottweiler puppy. We never became unkind to each other, or spoke ill of each other, or spoke ill about members who supported him. Saying there was no need to unfairly damage your opponents in order to win, Robinson Regis said. At the end of the day, we need all hands on deck. All are we as one family. We must be free to make our choices without concern about vilification or adverse consequences. She said the only consequence at the end of this internal election must be that the best person for each position must emerge winner, and everyone, with boundless faith in our destiny, take our party forward. Robinson Regis stressed that after the election, we will need to work together to fortify our party, and that becomes difficult if some seem hell-bent on hurting others, she said. The PNM and its leaders and members must remain committed to standing firm in principle and truth, representing the people with clarity, conviction, and dignity, even amidst the noise and challenges. I hold fast to the belief that truth, discipline, and integrity will always prevail. The level of bold-faced lies by Robinson Regis is conspicuous to the core. Robinson Regis believed that the population and the PNM party membership will forget her scathing vilification of Rowley. She has put both feet in her mouth. What a sorry state of hypocrisy. Remember, she said, I recall when Dr. Rowley challenged Mr. Manning in 1996 for the position of political leader. I supported Mr. Manning and was a frontline speaker, and not one day did I see the need to speak ill of Dr. Rowley or members who chose to support him. A blatant and unadulterated lie. The PNM clearly has lost its way with consistent leadership betrayals, which the rank and file has noted as the party sinks deeper and deeper into political oblivion. The prediction is that very few will come out to vote in this 24th June 2025 PNM internal election. This is what she had to say then.
Yes, indeed. Let's hear what she had to say
Rowley
then.
is unfit to lead. He is too arrogant. He does not entertain views different from his. The central theme of our attack should be Keith Rowley, by his acknowledged arrogant, dictatorial attitudes and harsh behavior, is temperamental and unsuited for the role of the Prime Minister. Keith Rowley in the PNM internal elections has articulated no policies on health, escalating crime, income inequality, and rising poverty and youth alienation. Keith Rowley has shown himself unable to be a team player, and in a party historically characterized by strict internal discipline, he led a mutiny. He has shown himself unable to weather sustained attacks. He becomes angry and in effect a raging bull.
Well, people, I know that you are in a state of discombobulation. I know that you're in a state of flumux. I know that you're in a state of total and absolute mesmerized by, of course, that statement, that last statement, as opposed, of course, to the more recent one when she said, of course, he is the best thing since sliced bread. But let us extrapolate some of the words that she used then to describe Rowley. You see, it's important that we do that because we would have seen that clearly, if she would have said that today, we would have said, yes, we agree. But notice she is saying something totally different. Because she said that he's a raging bull. We experienced that over the last 9 years or so. You know that he's not a team player. We know that he had no policies because we have seen record-breaking after record-breaking murders. And of course, that was one of the issues that she raised when she was defending, of course, or on Manning's side at the time. You see, because, as I said, there's something we have to conclude about her. And of course, she talked about him being, of course, in temperament, meaning that he is irascible, easily, of course, annoyed, easily vexed, and we have seen that as well. But today she is saying that he is totally transformed, different and distinct and aloof of what we know him to be. And her original assessment of him holds true to today. And up to the, when he, of course, decided to get the hell out because he realized that everything was against him and believed that somehow we so stupid to, of course, vote because he get out. Not, and of course, realizing that birds of feather flock together, and therefore all you could have is a replacement of the same. And therefore, the population took no chance because they have not told us, but instead argued that they would institute property tax. They would institute, of course, the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, and they wouldn't add a cent to public servants' negotiated salaries, having been, of course, deprived of same over many, let's say, cycles of negotiations. Notice that. Notice that. Never did. And telling us at the same time, ironically, it's the best thing that could happen to Trinidad and Tobago. That level of mismanagement, corruption, nepotism, cronyism. And you don't have to go far to, of course, understand that. Whether, of course, you look at the procurement legislation and the way it was eviscerated, or whether you look at Balize House, where they got the money from, they are yet to tell us. But we only leave that and go on because he realized that he would have some time to tell us that. And even, of course, as he leaves, the succeeding leader have to tell us that. We will insist. And she, of course, is one of those who were there. But what can we conclude? What is the corollary associated with this woman called Robinson Regis? But let me tell you what it is. It's clear and unadulterated opportunism. That's what that is. You cannot tell me that because you was with Manning at the time, you castigate Rowley. Rowley happened to give you, of course, a nice little cushion over the period that he was in office. And you are now saying that, of course, what you said then no longer obtains because he has metamorphosized. He has mutated to, of course, what you are trying to tell us. And because he gave some who he felt obviously he could manipulate cushy jobs as ministers, etc. But all that was the putting together, the assembling of a criminal enterprise. A criminal enterprise. That is what that was. Because those who remained silent, including Penny Lou Beckles, I say that she is, by her conduct of not leaving, that she was part and parcel of that conspiracy of course, miscreants. Let us not waste time. I was prepared, of course, to stay there, to be where she is now, so that she could say that finally I was able to get a blind to lead. But that too, just as Stuart Young's, will be ephemeral or is ephemeral. The population have had enough of them. The Laventils have had enough of them. The EBC is yet to give us a full assessment as to what transpired in Laventil East movement. Tomorrow, of course, we will be pursuing, of course, freedom of information. I know what they're going to tell us, that it is in the public domain, but no, we don't want what is in the public domain. What we want is sheets, if you have to pay for it, all the sheets, copies of all the sheets, of all 47 PDs. All 7 of the polling stations, 47 polling stations that comprise that particular constituency. We want to get a copy of each. We don't mind. If we have to pay, we'll pay. But we need to be able to make our own assessment. That is crucial. We have a our eyes is on the local government elections, and we want to take that momentum straight into that. And we are saying to the PNM now, start packing your bags and get out of the Port of Spain Corporation. Get out of the Laventille Corporation as well. Those I know for sure. How the other parties deal with their business, that's a different story. But the Port of Spain Corporation and the Laventille Corporation, or should I say, the Laventille is not considered a corporation as such, but it is considered to be, of course, one of those local government construct called a regional corporation. Whichever the name, you have to vie for it, you have to vote for it, you have to compete for it. And of course, we will do so with all the gusto and all the enthusiasm and all of the commitment and all of the electoral, what I consider to be currency that we got coming out of the April 28th general elections to impact on that. The journey now starts. We want that too, because those who have it, and let's face it, Laventille, tell me who, call in now and tell me who is your local government representative. You don't know them when they're campaigning. You don't know them after, just say the PNM win. And then they go, of course, and huddle in the corporations, and they decide there in the corporation at their statutory meetings and so on, how they will divide up. And let me tell you something. Just as the parliament, you have a right to be able to go and witness these meetings as well, because it's part of our democratic process. We need to begin to understand we have to take care of our business, because these fellas who we left, fellas and girls who we left to, of course, manage our affairs and turn our backs. They abused it, give us nothing, and could tell us all why things could happen. Because I remember, of course, Winston Churchill, when he said about a politician is one who, of course, tell you all what they will do for you before they get into government. All what they can do for you. The stars, the moon, etc. And when they get there, they then manufacture a plethora, multiple of excuses as to why they couldn't do what they said when they were looking for your votes. They could. Why they couldn't do that during their term in office. That must stop. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have the unique scenario where you don't know them at all, and they seem to keep away until the next, of course, cycle for the elections come. And the PNM, of course, in these parts, whether it be, of course, the Port of Spain Corporation and the Laventille Corporation, they accept that as par for the course. And the electorate, if they're it's usually small numbers that these electoral districts are divided up into, a little 1,000, 2,000, and a fella will win with 700, 400, and he's a councillor, but you can't see him again at all. Kasim again. Let's go to the lines. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Lennox. Good night, and good night to everybody.
Yes, man. Good night to you.
How things with you, wife?
Well, you know, as good as could be in this circumstance, we are working, continue to work, and of course, raising issues that some people may not be too familiar with or may not have observed. Like, of course, Camille Robinson Regis saying nice things about, bad things about Raul in the past, and now saying that he is the best thing since sliced bread, even though our experience has been the most murderous and the most barbaric administration that one could ever contemplate or perceive. But go ahead.
Yes, and you know, these people and them forget. It's just 2 months ago they was in power.
Yeah, it seems
They
so.
forget everything,
Yeah, because
everything.
they make the UNC on they're hoping for the population to believe the illusion that the UNC was in office for the last, let's say, at minimum 4 years.
Yes. And you know, it has some other people who was vying to be leaders in this country.
Yeah.
They pretending to that they didn't know that PNM was in power for 9+ years.
yeah, that is
Everything
so
is
mad.
UNC.
Yeah.
And some of them saying that do not listen to what the leader's saying. Don't take no sweet talk and do this and don't do that. And all they're trying to do is to disable this government, you know. That's all they want to do.
It's to manifest an illusion. But of course, an illusion is an illusion, so it will remain, of course, amorphous, as some people would say. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I tell you, when I see these people on Facebook and things, I just get mad with them, boy. I just get mad with them.
Nah, don't be. That's part for the cause. That's how they are made up. I don't get mad at all. All I just say, look how stupid these people are, and at the end of the day, they will lose their deposit because nobody will take them on.
And still, Seotiong is saying PNM didn't close down Petro train. And one of them people is listen to themselves, boy.
Well, I think they do. But the thing about it is they feel that the people are stupid and would be listening to that kind of hogwash or that kind of rank and unadulterated misinformation, disinformation, and outright lies.
And for 9+ years, they couldn't find gas, no way, nothing they couldn't find. Look, 2 years, 2 months in power. And they find gas about 3 different places already. And they expect to find more.
And I see the Minister of Energy saying, ramp up more, get it out of the ground. Get it out of the ground, yes.
So Seotiong didn't know these things. All they know was to thief and suffer poor people. And it has some of the PNM supporters like this operation because they're supporting it. I don't know, boy. I don't know what to say about these people and then.
Well, I'm glad you used the term some because the vast majority don't. So
yes.
Yeah,
if not,
there's a numbers game. So I'm all right with that. Some.
If not for the majority,
yes,
we would have still been in opposition.
Of course.
Yes. Tell me something. In front by you there, does have parking on mornings or during the day?
Yes. All the time.
Okay. Because I would have to come back to Port of Spain and I'm passing by you.
Great. I love that. It's about time that you pay a visit. You know, you are very
certain things I want to talk to you about. You know.
All right.
A lot of things happening, and you know we have a chance to correct it. That's it.
No problem, man. No problem.
All right.
No problem.
So you
okay,
take care.
Yes, man, and all the best to you as well, my friend.
Same to you.
Yes, indeed. Today, of course, people one had to take note of the fact that There's a lot of rain today. Yes, indeed. I trust that there would have been no untoward consequences, flooding, etc. Or people would have been able to secure their valuables and, of course, their property, so that it is not ravaged by the, of course, inclemency of the weather and the deluge that, of course, would be the consequence. Seems as though, and it was about 3 or 4 bursts, 3 or 4 torrential showers that came. So I trust that everything is all right. Of course, the more we know about what is happening with respect to whatever clean up and so on, I know the government has taken a proactive approach in these matters, even when, of course, the water may be still, of course, pretty high. They have deployed, of course, these dinghies, they call them, these flat bottom boats to assist, not like the PNM who would say wait until the water subside. And of course, not even those persons and the animals that was in Noah's Ark took chances, so they would not come out unless, of course, the pigeon came back with some leaf to show that, you know, the ground was dry. I'm making the point that not only you should be prepared, but also, of course, the government has to be prepared. That's the point I am making by alluding, of course, to Noah and the Ark story in the Holy Bible. So that is where we are. But of course, those of you who just joined us, you could call us now, 337-6940, 337-6940. And yes, indeed, of course, we will be having some program changes next week. We'll have some people coming in. That's the only time I'll go up to 10 o'clock, telling you flat. If we have people coming in and they are staying with us, and of course we have to hear what they have to say, and we have to, of course, interview them. This week I have a very, very long week, both in terms of consuming the daytime and, of course, having to do work in the night. This weekend was, of course, one of only work. I am yearning, of course, to tell you what I'm doing, but of course it has to do with government matters. So I'm sure I'll get the opportunity in due course to, of course, share with you what has been happening, and we will, of course, at the end of the day, be able to benefit from what I am doing and what I propose to do. But of course, this has to be an all-of-government approach. Nobody, of course, can operate with only the arm or the eyes or the brain alone, or the nostrils or the digestive system, as the case may be. It has to be, of course, a collective of all of the 9 systems of the body: the osseous system, the circulatory system, the lymphatic system, the digestive system. Trying to recall, of course, my biology, my human and social biology time, when, of course, all these things I would have known. Plus, of course, the separate organs, such as the eyes, and such as, of course, the skin, and it has specific functions, such as, of course, the liver, such as the spleen, and, of course, that group of cells that is embedded in the spleen, called, of course, the islets of Langerhans, where, of course, provides the insulin that is required in order to combust sugar. And when that is exhausted or it is dysfunctional, then, of course, you get the term what we call diabetes. And that is why they say you have sugar in your blood, etc. Well, I didn't mean to be, of course, to regurgitate, but, you know, sometimes when a long time I haven't used those or focus on those things, but it comes in context, of course, because the point I am making is that we have to have an all-of-government approach. So whether it be the Ministry of Agriculture, whether it be the Ministry of Works, whether it be the Ministry of Education, whether it be the Ministry of the Attorney General, whether it be the Office of the Prime Minister, whether it be the Ministry of Culture, whether it be the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs, whether it be the Ministry of national security. All of them must come together to, of course, address the problem in an effective way and in a coordinated way. And I like the idea of having, of course, ministers operating in two ministries at a time, one as a minor, one as a major. I think that is a beautiful development. And of course, marrying ministries in that way as well, because let's face it, the Ministry of Homeland Security, as opposed to the Ministry of Defense, fundamentally they have to act in concert with each other. So the best thing should happen, as in fact has happened, is that Sturge, who is the Ministry of Defense, who is the Minister of Defense, is now a junior minister in the Ministry of Home Affairs, where, of course, a former police officer is now, of course, the minister. Yeah, I'm talking about, I don't know why that name would slip me at this point in time, but I'm sure somebody will call in and let me know who that person is, or to whom I am referring. I'll leave it so, because I want somebody to call in and remind me, to get some kind of Eureka moment where, of course, you get a little tinkle on the brain, and therefore, of course, you'll be able to do some kind of service to the information that we are attempting to disseminate through, of course, our efforts here on the corridor transformation. But let's go back, of course, to the hypocrisy of Camille Robinson Regis. You can't play it once and get the gist. And those of you who just came on, you would see where, of course, at one time, talking one thing, castigating, criticizing, acrid, excoriating, very, what I consider to be uncomplimentary commentary about Rowley. And today, because of course she clearly, as the typical opportunist that she clearly is, she felt that she has some kind of loyalty to Rowley because she was given some position that she never would have expected to be in. And therefore, of course, I think she might have referred to even Stuart Young in a particular way, but I don't want to go there, because she has this propensity to, of course, engage in what I consider to be, for trivial reasons, she will issue, of course, a pre-action protocol letter. But let's go straight, of course, to that clip where, of course, she said certain things.
Not entertain views different from his.
She said Rowley is
unfit to lead. He is too arrogant.
He's unfit to lead. Rowley, that is what Camille Robinson Regis had said in a different scenario, in a time of the past.
Rowley is unfit to lead. He is too arrogant. He does not entertain views different from his. The central theme of our attack should be Keith Rowley, by his acknowledged arrogant, dictatorial attitudes and harsh behavior, is temperamental and unsuited for the role of the Prime Minister. Keith Rowley in the PNM internal elections has articulated no policies on health, escalating crime, income inequality, and rising poverty and youth alienation. Keith Rowley has shown himself unable to be a team player, and in a party historically characterized by strict internal discipline, he led a mutiny. He has shown himself unable to weather sustained attacks. He becomes angry and in effect a raging bull.
Camille Robinson Regis calls for party unity and stop bashing a former Prime Minister Keith Christopher Rowley carried in a Guardian newspaper article which note, PNM election chaos sparks concern from leaders, written by Rhea Tadon, June 21st, June 2025. The article states, as the People's National Movement heads to the polls tomorrow for its internal election, Vice Chairman and Chairman of the Women's League Camille Robinson Regis has expressed sadness over what she sees as the barbs and the sniping directed at former PNM leader and Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley during this internal election campaign. In a Facebook post, Robinson Regis, who is not seeking re-election, said, "I'm deeply saddened by the fact that this internal election has turned into the bashing of people who genuinely care for and have worked diligently for our beloved party and country." The article went on to state, "There has been unease among some ELE men of the party over the election discourse, with some party members expressing their consternation over what they view as negative statements targeting Rowley and at times also Stuart Young, including comments that, but for the early calling of the election, the PNM would have been entering its third term in office." Such remarks have come from some members of the One PNM Bring Back the Love platform, the slate led by opposition leader Penelope Beckles, who is unopposed for the position of political leader, and which includes General Secretary Foster Cummings, seeking re-election, candidate for the chairmanship Marvin Gonzalez, and candidate for the vice chairmanship Dr. Amory Brown. Although there have been several comments on Facebook from the rank and file expressing their concerns and dismay about the course of the campaign, Robinson Regis joined this chorus on her Facebook page. Robinson Regis said, "It is deeply disheartening to witness Dr. Rowley, someone who has consistently demonstrated his commitment to the best interests of our party and our country, facing criticism from within our own ranks. Even more troubling is that some of this criticism comes from individuals whose political journeys he helped revive and whom he placed in positions of trust and responsibility. At a time when our political opponents are also actively seeking to discredit him, it is unfortunate that such internal divisions are emerging. This moment calls for unity and reflection, not unnecessary discord, suggesting that some of the criticisms apply to the actions of members of a current slate," Robinson Regis stated. Unbelievably, though, is that some members of the leadership who are being accused of failing us are the same members who now form an integral part of some slates. Isn't that contradictory? Also, who are the so-called opponents? Is it Dr. Rowley, Stuart Young, Rohan Sananan, and I? We are the ones now ostensibly being attacked for the outcome of the general election as we formed the leadership. But several persons who are now requesting your vote to lead the party again were also part of that leadership and integral to the general election campaign. So how are they not being vilified, but we are? Asking how come some people were not being similarly held to account, Robinson Regis said, "If the election result didn't turn out how we expected, so how does that make us the enemy and the persons who are now fighting the internal election and who are also involved in the general election are not being attacked and are not the enemy? Some even lost their seats, but are presenting themselves to lead the party again. I am not against that, but let's be fair." Harking back to an earlier internal contest, Robinson Regis said, "I recall when Dr. Rowley challenged Mr. Manning in 1996 for the position of political leader, I supported Mr. Manning and was a frontline speaker, and not one day did I see the need to speak ill of Dr. Rowley or members who chose to support him. There was no need, as it was a contest amongst family, and in that case we didn't need to bring down one for the other to win. We needed to highlight why it was felt that one candidate had the better ability to lead at that time. I was not even a candidate, but I spoke several times in support of Mr. Manning on his platform, never in any way denigrating Dr. Rowley, who had a legitimate right to challenge. In fact, during the campaign, I went to Dr. Rowley's home and gave him and my schoolmate Sharon, Rowley, a Rottweiler puppy. We never became unkind to each other, or spoke ill of each other, or spoke ill about members who supported him. Saying there was no need to unfairly damage your opponents in order to win," Robinson Regis said. "At the end of the day, we need all hands on deck. All are we as one family. We must be free to make our choices without concern about vilification or adverse consequences." She said the only consequence at the end of this internal election must be that the best person for each position must emerge winner, and everyone, with boundless faith in our destiny, take our party forward. Robinson Regis stressed that after the election, we will need to work together to fortify our party, and that becomes difficult if some seem hell-bent on hurting others, she said. The PNM and its leaders and members must remain committed to standing firm in principle and truth, representing the people with clarity, conviction, and dignity, even amidst the noise and challenges. I hold fast to the belief that truth, discipline, and integrity will always prevail. The level of bold-faced lies by Robinson Regis is conspicuous to the core. Robinson Regis believed that the population and the PNM party membership will forget her scathing vilification of Rowley. She has put both feet in her mouth. What a sorry state of hypocrisy. Remember, she said, "I recall when Dr. Rowley challenged Mr. Manning in 1996 for the position of political leader. I supported Mr. Manning and was a frontline speaker, and not one day did I see the need to speak ill of Dr. Rowley or members who chose to support him." A blatant and unadulterated lie. The PNM clearly has lost its way with consistent leadership betrayals, which the rank and file has noted as the party sinks deeper and deeper into political oblivion. The prediction is that very few will come out to vote in this 24th June 2025 PNM internal election. This is what she had to say then.
Yes,
Rowley
indeed.
is unfit to lead. He is too arrogant. He does not entertain views different from his. The central theme of our attack should be Keith Rowley, by his acknowledged arrogant, dictatorial attitudes and harsh behavior, is temperamental and unsuited for the role of the Prime Minister. Keith Rowley in the PNM internal elections has articulated no policies on health, escalating crime, income inequality, and rising poverty and youth alienation. Keith Rowley has shown himself unable to be a team player, and in a party historically characterized by strict internal discipline, he led a mutiny. He has shown himself unable to weather sustained attacks. He becomes angry and in effect a raging bull.
Yes, indeed, of course, people, very, very, very telling information there. It shows that Camille Robinson Regis clearly is a consummate liar. She's a habitual, if we can say from that, because, I mean, it has to be calculated. She can't tell me that she forgot that she said those things about Rowley at an earlier time, in 1996. Can't tell me that. Never could say that. And if she says so, it means that that in itself is a lie. So that, of course, brings out the habitual nature of the individual for being mendacious. But more than that, of course, you see that apparently she talks with her head on the ground. So we thought we should put in that animation to show that she's talking upside down. Because then she was, of course, saying something about Rowley that all of us know is true today. And today she's trying to tell us that, of course, we must accept all of that. And that Rowley is not what she was saying then. When all of our experiences show that what she was saying then is in fact our experience and the character and the personality called Keith Christopher Rowley, who was the former, or who is the former Prime Minister. Let's go to the lines. A person, good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Hello, good night. This is San Fernando.
Yes, man, go ahead.
I'm looking for a way to describe this, what's going on with Camille Robinson Regis.
You have any word, boy?
But it had to be coming a phrase because, what she was saying about Rowley was true.
That's right. And it's true. That just was, it's true. And that was 1996. Yeah.
Right. So it's a case of what is called, I don't know if the term is right to use, but it's a case of double irony. Or double.
But I don't know what the hell it is. But I want to use a local parlance, double arseness, if you have to use double. Yeah, double arseness. Because I don't understand that. You're a total liar. And she would listen to that and listen to me and go and look to send me a pre-action protocol letter, you know. That's how mad them is. Yeah.
Oh Lord. I want to go down the road of another issue I want to raise here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. That was the issue with when Kamala made the statements against the Venezuelans.
Uh-huh.
Not against them, but with the Venezuelans.
Yes.
It's like it concerns both Rowley and Kamala.
All right.
Right? Because no, I don't want to say or guide you how to run your thing.
Right.
But here what I think. That issue with Kamala now is like looking at an elephant and telling the elephant, listen, I have a garden, but don't put your foot in my garden, you know. Which is what she was doing with Maduro, because Maduro is the elephant in the game.
Yeah.
Right? But the thing is that Amy Brown and they chose to go down a road saying that she should have used diplomacy.
Yeah.
Right? But when you look at the Rowley issue, when he went to the Barbados CARICOM meeting, and he said that gangs should be considered as terrorists. Which one was more dangerous to Trinidad? Which statement was more dangerous? Because when he says that gangs are considered terrorists, and the Barbadian people say, the Barbadian, you have the tape, said that if you have gangs like that in Trinidad and you're doing nothing about it, then he could have been putting Trinidad and Tobago into real deep trouble in terms of international treaties and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I don't know how you see it, but I see it this way.
All right.
You know, so so you know.
Yes.
So it's always with them a case of I don't know. It's madness.
Yeah.
These people are crazy, you know.
Oh yeah, well of course. I mean, listen to this woman and what she said then, as opposed to what she say now. And then of course you have Al-Rari saying that they give the government 12 months, and yet and there will be mass retrenchment and so on. But in fact, he is attempting to commingle persons who are political appointees with along with persons who are not political appointees, and therefore will benefit the normal from the offerings of these institutions. But he's trying to, of course, underneath all of that, is trying, of course, to incite the rank and file to, of course, take a certain course of action, possibly that, and we could stretch our imagination any and everywhere.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I haven't heard the results for the day.
It appears that they're keeping that to the chest until the convention, I think, is next weekend or something like that. And they will be making the announcements then, when, of course, the incumbents will then demit their offices. It's because we're in a wonder. But, of course, that in itself has a criticism, because just as how they said that some people are saying that they call the election too early, the national elections, but they say they call this one too early as well. People like Ferdy are saying that they should leave it for September, etc., to give the party some time to reconstitute itself, etc. But I thought before the election, the party was solid, that they were united, that nothing could come in between. They're not fragmented, etc. All of that were blatant lies.
True. Anyhow, that's my contribution for the night.
All right, thanks very much, my friend. But of course, he said something there that, with respect, of course, to Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her, what I consider to be bellicose, in some quarters they say bellicose language, meaning that it is warlike, but no. Because he made the point about, of course, gangs and therefore terrorists, and Trinidad and Tobago is known internationally as the smallest nation in the Western Hemisphere with the highest per capita terrorists. That has been the talk and making the rounds in the United States on all of the networks, and therefore, of course, when Venezuela, remember, we had some Muslims, I believe it would have been, going to Hajj in Saudi Arabia, but of course ISIS was still around, and some of them ended up using the Venezuelan route. Some of them ended up committing, I think infringing some of the immigration rules in Venezuela, and they ended up there, and we had to negotiate. But they were using that route to get to Saudi, not Saudi Arabia, of course, but Syria, where of course the ISIS was dominating in the northern part of Syria. They having, of course, their own internal problems. But the point I am making here is that I'm raising that to say that he talked about gangs, and of course, beneath all of what Kamala would have said, the discerning individual would have realized that a regime there is also a gang. That regime is a gang. Let's see a little bit as to what Camille Robinson was saying, because she can't escape. I want to make sure that she can't escape.
Crowley is unfit to lead. He is too arrogant. He does not entertain views different from his. The central theme of our attack should be Keith Rowley, by his acknowledged arrogant, dictatorial attitudes and harsh behavior, is temperamental and unsuited for the role of the Prime Minister. Keith Rowley in the PNM internal elections has articulated no policies on health, escalating crime, income inequality, and rising poverty and youth alienation.
So there you have it, people. There she is. And I'm saying that what I discern in Kamala Prasad Bissasa's presentation, or her overture, or her projection to the population when she made the statement that do not enter Trinidad and Tobago's water, is that the regime across there is really seen as a gangster organization. And that, of course, that is manifested in the fact that they made arrangement with the United States to have free and fair and verifiable elections. And when the time came, those who were seen to be a serious challenge to Maduro, he found a way to disqualify them. And even when, of course, the opposition would have put their own mechanism in place to make certain that they can record, because this is a numbers game, I'm talking about elections, you still see where, of course, Maduro claimed is something that was ratified by, of course, the courts, that he made the court that he made, because, of course, the judges were handpicked by him. In other words, Kamala Prasad Bissessa was talking about the democratic infringements of the Maduro regime. And from that perspective, it's a gang, of course, quite apart from the fact, and let's not fool ourselves. Several members of that and the upper echelons of that administration have been sanctioned by the United States. Several of them are wanted by the United States authority, the criminal justice system there, including Maduro, who has a 25 million bounty on his head right now. Right now. So, by every stretch of the imagination and by every measurement, Rowley and they ought to have been extremely cautious and not throw caution to the wind. Give them our monies as upfront commitment. Having extracted a 30-year lease that they could have infringed or reneged on at any time. And more importantly, the PNM would have been guilty of reckless behavior, because they would have known that the Maduro administration must not be trusted. I don't know how Rowley come to trust them. 17 times you visit there, etc., etc., etc. You believe that you could control them. But they're pulling from you $1 million every year to set up a 30-year arrangement. You have all the financial responsibility, barring, of course, the investment of Shell that was prepared, of course, to put out their own money, and that by itself would be a special arrangement, whether it be, of course, contract sharing or there's another term that they use. In that profit sharing in the oil industry, they give it a different name, but that is essentially what it is about. But the fact of the matter is that the risk that Rowley and they took deserves a full and complete investigation into why it is that they have put Trinidad and Tobago in such a jeopardizing scenario. Deliberately, the cabinet of Trinidad. That is why I keep saying, and notice, all of what I have been saying so far has come to pass. One, they had to call early elections. We will of course give all of the building blocks that would have led a person like myself to conclude that they had to call early elections, that they would have lost. They would have lost the election handsomely, because I was predicting 39 seats. What we were certain is that nothing for them in Tobago. That was, of course, accomplished. We said, of course, that blue lights and silver bracelets will have to be, of course, the order of the day. And we saw in the parliament where, of course, John Jeremy, the Attorney General, was saying, I will be at war with you, and he identified certain people inside of the parliament right there and then. And he could have only done that. Why? Because he would have had sufficient evidence. And people were saying that these people will not go to jail. And hear what I was saying and continue to say. They were so blatant. They were so confident that they could thief, that they could put their hands up the cookie jar of the treasury unscathed, without consequences, that they continue to be rambunctious, they continue to be greedy. The avarice had no limit. And as they gormandized, and as they pillage the treasury of this country, and that is what is going to get them in trouble, because even if they put the ill-gotten gains in the names of families, they themselves, in an attempt, of course, to give the facade, to give the impression that they are concerned about corruption, and that is only because of international focus on Trinidad and Tobago, because you have, of course, the OECD, the organization of OECD, the organization of something. But the fact of the matter is, based in France, that deals, of course, with corruption and, of course, money laundering, etc., and for which we had to, of course, adjust our system here in order to meet, so that the government had no choice. But that was only a front, because we saw it, of course, manifested itself in what? In the procurement legislation, where they got it in order for the cabinet to have its way outside of the ordinary person. That is what we are talking about. So those are the predictions, and that is why I'm saying that there must be a case of blue lights and silver bracelets, quite apart from civil action against them. All right? So I thought I should just mention that once again, so you understand clearly where we are. Where we are, because it is coming to a boil, and we are seeing, of course, all of the signs. Somebody asked me today, well, Smith, how come you have been so accurate about these matters? Is it that because you are on the radio, or that you? I said, listen, I have a knack for being pragmatic, and of course I have a keen observation talent, and that was manifested very poignantly, very conspicuously, when for all that time, 9 years, I called Rowley a rapist and a pedophile, and he wouldn't do anything about it. And of course, he knows that the truth is the ultimate defense against what? Against defamation. And every time that happens, or it comes to a boy, or it comes to his attention, he then deflects attention to, of course, either vanilla topping, say thing about him in the parliament and so on, and that we talking about the parents and the father and the mother, and he wondering what the brother will say, and all of that obfuscation. And there are those, because he hold the office of prime minister, believe that somehow he could sanitize himself from what the criminal justice system will see, and will see him as a total and absolute rapscallion, the scum of the earth. And I said, so, scum of the earth. Because that is what these kinds of individuals are. Dressed up in, of course, jacket and tie, and with, of course, as the Bible would say, as the Bible would have, of course, identify these people as, of course, spiritual wickedness in high places. That's what the Bible called these kind of individuals. And as they poisoned the highest offices in the land, and as they raided the treasury in the most savage of manner, and as they imposed draconian and evil policies and programs, as they executed their nefarious and diabolical acts and policies. And that is manifested, of course, in your own experience. You have to be wicked not to understand that when they talk about property tax, when they talk about increasing, or should I say reducing subsidies, and therefore increasing the price of energy, gasoline, etc., it is all about the deception and the evil. And when they decide to, of course, increase electricity, water was next. They even, of course, put a tax on what? On Korea, because they believe that people are buying things outside of Trinidad and Tobago, and their 1%ers, television and sewing machines, and of course washing machines, are not selling. So they decide to put a tax so that you will not be able to buy the thing cheaper outside. But more importantly, when, of course, the situation with the foreign exchange crunch came, you would have had to be the victim. The greatest ones to suffer, the greatest suffering, are those persons who would, of course, have the ambition to buy outside for greater quality and price. And they put a lid on that as well. You must know. So therefore, it is those things that I would look at and know that, of course, when a government has lost its way. On the other hand, you could also predict the up and rising stars as well. Because you would see that the UNC would have been talking through Kamala Prasad Bisasa and others in a manner that shows that they are in sync with, of course, what the population wants, what the population is urging and is in need of. And so, if you are able, of course, to rationalize that, if you are able, of course, to be discerning, if you are able to be cognitive and intellectually and cerebrally accurate, you will understand that you can only reach the inescapable condition or situation And therefore, the corollary that you will now conclude, your conclusion must be that Rowley and they and the PNM are on the way out, and that UNC, Kamala Prasad Bisasa, and the coalition of interests ultimately are on their way in, as is the case today. So I thought it was important, of course, to give you an insight as to how to rationalize. Maybe because my background is teaching as well, so therefore I'm able, of course, to look at young people, for example, and know to either put them in the front of the class, the middle of the class, or the back of the class, depending on their respective abilities, etc. You have all of that coming together in one person called, of course, Lennox Smith. So that is what I am not saying that all of us have the same abilities. I want to accept that. And therefore, of course, but what I expect is that respect will be given when those persons are in your presence or come close to you, as is the case tonight. Because all of the pollsters, remember, said that the PNM would have had a close finish in Tobago, in Trinidad. And we were the only ones who were saying landslide in Tobago. And of course, all of the seats in Tobago, as far as the national elections is concerned, the PNM will lose, in other words, and that the PDP would have gotten, of course, all of the seats in Tobago in spite of the shenanigans. And that is another factor as well of Rowley trying to undermine the process by, of course, adding 3 seats in Tobago. And then we had the other situation, and that's another factor that I omitted to mention, but we could elaborate on that tomorrow because I think it's already 10 o'clock, it's 1 minute past 10 o'clock. But I looked at as well the fact that Rowley was prepared to postpone the local government election unilaterally without consultation, and then telling us that somehow property tax will be used to serve or to service the regional corporation that will emerge, when it was in fact an excuse to justify a commitment made in 2015 that they will never pursue property tax. That they will never pursue. And you had the audacity, the temerity, the gall, and the effrontery of Brian Manning in the parliament. I'm sorry for that fella, but he looked for it because he forgave Rowley and what Rowley did to his father because he went to Likoto for him. The fool Brian Manning is saying that the present government has, of course, foregone a major area where they could make money to satisfy the budget. To satisfy the budget by referencing the property tax. I ain't gonna go to the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority yet, but the property tax, because you see, he has no basis, no moral, no ethical, and no common sense reason to use that, because the PNM said in 2015 they will never institute property tax. Rowley called it a wicked tax. But here, this buffoon, this nincompoop, this rock-headed fella, bald-headed like Rowley, tell us that, listen, property tax was one way of getting the funding to, of course, finance the increase in the budgetary arrangements that we have. I want to tell you as well, of course, that this week we will be, of course, heading to Tobago. In fact, my deputy political leader finally tonight, Deputy Political Leader Dada Gabriel will be, of course, going to Tobago. So you Tobagonians, Silver Fox, I know that you are listening. So he may want some accommodation as well you offer me. So I see no reason why you wouldn't be able to, of course, extend the same here, because, of course, it's me that he will be representing, me meaning that, of course, the party love. So I know that you are listening, and as time goes closer, I am going to, of course, call on you, and I'm going to put you in contact with him, or vice versa, in order for all you to make arrangements to, of course, for accommodation wise. But he'll be there for as long as he says. I have no difficulty because he's a businessman as well, so I'm sure that he may want to scope or to explore business opportunities that may be available. But I want to tell, of course, the Chief Secretary, Fali, that of course we will be coming. He will be, of course, meeting with you. Tomorrow, of course, I will send an email offer to Fali, letting him know that Love will be coming to speak with him. And it is an initiative that we are taking as a small party. You see, we'll be doing the same for Grenada. We're doing the same thing for St. Vincent. We're doing the same thing, of course, for St. Lucia. These small parties, because we consider ourselves a regional party, only focus on the Laventils and, of course, Port of Spain South. That's all we are on. That has the same socio-economic and psycho-cultural, of course, dynamics at work, and therefore, of course, that is our focus. So we don't have any national agenda, and therefore, we never believe that any one of us can become prime minister. What we have to do, of course, is to attach our wagons and our philosophy and our ideas, and therefore convert that into policies to benefit our people. And once that happens, we are all right. So Tobago is just one leg of initiative that we are taking to, of course, fraternize, to associate, to communicate, and to, of course, share as we, of course, are in this sphere. Call, of course, the Caribbean and the Caribbean community, talking about, of course, CARICOM and this archipelago and this archipelagic group of islands from Jamaica in the Jamaica in the north to Trinidad in the south, and of course we include Guyana, even though Guyana is on the South American continent, but we still call them brothers and sisters simply because we have the same historical and the same what is called, of course, colonial past, and therefore, of course, and they are part and parcel of CARICOM, that arrangement where all of us are in. So once again, Silver Fox, and if you have anybody else that we think we can talk to, I will be talking with you before, of course, my deputy political leader make his journey across to Tobago. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And of course, on a Sunday, we normally, of course, take it down, have a little bit of course, religious interlude, and this Sunday is no. Why? As soon as I finish it, somebody calling, boy. That's how it has been. Eh? But all right, I'll take that call. I'll take that call because it's from the United States. I'll take that call. United States? Yes, it is. A pleasant good night, my friend. Welcome.
Lennox, sorry for calling you so late, man. I get a flat tire on my trailer, man. I gotta get a fix.
Oh, you have a flat tire? All right, okay. Oh, that's a huge tire, boy.
Anyway, yeah, man, I hear the couple singles, man.
Yeah, because I know you're a short man, so that tire be taller than you.
It cost me $600.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. Replacement.
All right, okay. Tell me.
Yeah. Listen, I was listening a little while, thing about that country where it should be. My 2 cents is that Trinidad had 2 oil bombs. Dubai just started just after that. Mm-hmm. Look at that place. You had it PNF for 45 years.
Yes.
And going.
Mm-hmm.
What they have done for that country, and still people trying to vote for that people and feel it they go be better. Are they stupid?
Well, I want to see the numbers that come out today. If they get 500 or 1,000 people, they get plenty.
I don't understand.
Yeah, because that party is dead. It is dead. Yeah.
Are you telling me that you still red and ready? But you're a lobster from it, man. That's why we don't feel sorry for you.
Yeah, that's why last night I had to tell the guy, well, listen, why are you talking about slate? You should be talking about the death of the PNM, not that slate within. No, they are now engaged, of course, in such an internecine self-destruction that they are now imploding and they have exploded onto the national psyche right now. They are simply toxic. They are no good.
They're toxic. They should have been buried about 10 feet. Never come back in there.
Those bunker bombs that the Americans dropped on on Iran, they should be deeper than that. Not so?
Yeah, deeper than that.
Deeper
like
than
300
that.
feet.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that's how deep. Yes.
But
Never
talking
to
about
rise
that.
again.
Talking about, I said you're bringing up that subject. Now you raise a nest there.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
Uh-huh.
This thing will cause a big problem. I'm telling you, man. We pray to God that they do not, that man keep with that man from that red, you know.
Well, I know that you have your issues with Donald Trump. You have had that since from
No,
time.
it's not an issue with this man. He tell the people that what he gonna do and have no one. But why are you going to war with Iran?
But he said he was going to stop wars. He said that he wasn't going
Exactly.
to go to war. So it's nothing different to what Rowley told us, that he would not, of course, engage in property tax. He would not interfere with the subsidies. We didn't expect, of course, that he will increase the electricity bills, of course, as well as the rates of water. And yet still he did that. So you have these deceivers who, of course, are nothing different to Hitler and Mussolini and Gaddafi, and if, of course, still alive.
Yeah.
Still alive. I think our boy in Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe, and then, of course, we have right here our boy Maduro.
Yeah, he said the people that you bring down the price, the oil, the food price, everything is gone up, man. When I buy something in the go, buy something in the truck, stop me, man, twice the price, man.
Yeah,
I don't start cooking in my truck.
I didn't realize that Donald Trump was so dense in terms of his his intellect.
What did I tell you years ago?
Yeah, I know. No, frankly, because I mean,
Now
if you're saying that you're putting subsidies on increasing tariff on a particular product, but the people see it as necessary to import, it means is your domestic population will be the ones that will fork out the extra money.
Exactly.
But he is saying that the opposite is the case. The country that is exporting will be absorbing the extra tariff. I mean, that is madness.
The man I know him, not he know Constitution. What he know about it?
Yeah, I thought that was
It's so dumb.
Obtuse scenario for President of the United States. At least that is fundamental. That is basic.
But Lennox, I tell you that long. Remember when I talk about tariff, I tell you that many years ago.
Yeah.
And I try to explain to tell you that the consumer will be paying for that.
Yeah. I always do that, but I thought that what will happen is that you will have a substitute. You will quickly generate the substitute so that you get it cheaper because it's being produced in America, but he has not been able to do that. So people still have this foreign taste. Yes.
Because if you buy something for 20, if the businessman buys something for 20, let's say for $30, $40, doing the simplest way, right? Yeah. Guess what? And he sell it back. You expect he pay for that $30? Not we got to pay for that, consumer.
Yeah, and he normally would purchase it from a foreigner, from a foreign market, because he could get it usually cheaper there.
Right.
Yeah, because what this government, for example, here has done, when you could get, of course, a washing machine or something like that, or some kind of electrical device cheaper by getting your foreign exchange and paying for it, they impose, of course, a courier tax one time, so they make it, of course, more expensive for you. There's no motivation, in other words, for you to go and buy out there, even though the quality and the cost may be better.
Why you think I hesitate when you tell me to send that for you? I know what I have.
Yeah. You did say that. I want to confirm that. You did say. Yeah.
Because I can't bring it for you.
All right.
It costs me cheaper to bring it for you. That is for me.
Yes. Very good, Papa. All right, well, you go and fix your tire. I go in and take a 5 because
I fixed it already, man. I fixed it already. I want to print that. I was listening to you, but I couldn't do anything.
All right, Brothers. Okay.
Right.
So we'll talk. Yes. Bye-bye.
Right.
All right, people, of course, we have finally come to the end. Don't forget, of course, tomorrow morning, the Ground Report, Andy, Mikey, and myself, as we continue, of course, with these and other issues. Let me, of course, end as we started. I think I just love this song. It's the anthem for the Sunday. I think it's very, very Baptist, of which, of course, I'm one, practicing one at that. So there we are. Let's get the audio.